I think the best book that I've read so far this year, in my opinion, is probably Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Oh, I'm so sweaty. Oh my god, it's too warm to be doing anything. Hi everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Books with Leo, and today I'm here to do the mid-year book freakout tag. That's really a mouthful. I've got this whole pile of books right next to me and I'm going to talk about them. And this is basically a tag. I've got no clue who made it up, but I'll be sure to link their original video down below. And basically this tag is just talking about all the books that you've read so far in this year, all the books that you loved, you hated, the good, the bad, everything of your reading year this far. And I think the idea is that you do it in the middle of the year actually, and it's not really the middle of the year because it's June, but I see everybody doing this on YouTube already and I really want to hop on that trend, so here I am hopping on that trend. So yeah, it's, by the way, really warm in the Netherlands right now and I am sweating. If you see any shiny things, it's probably not highlighter, but that's okay. It might be though, because my highlighter is really shiny today. Without any more sweaty talk, let's just get into the questions. Okay, so the first question is, what is the best book that you've read so far in this year? And that has to be Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And this is the first book in the Mistborn trilogy, The Final Empire. I'm not sure if I could even explain this book to you if I tried. I just really love this fantasy trilogy, and I know there's a lot of people that aren't that into Brandon Sanderson. I know I'm also the most basic booktube girl ever right now, but I just really enjoyed this book, so I would be lying if I picked any other book for this question, I think. Mistborn is basically about this world where there are slaves and they've been enslaved for many, many years, and they're called the Scar, and the nobility thinks that the Scar are different from them, but they're basically just all people, so it's just oppression really. Then they have this one absolute ruler who's called the Lord Ruler, and he rules over everybody. It's just a tyranny that he's having. And every time when people try to do a revolution, it sort of doesn't work. And basically the Scar are sort of downbeat as well. They're not very, well, they don't seem very rebellious. So there's something going on there. But basically in this world there are also people with special powers, and those people are called mistings, and it is thought that they are connected to the mists that come out at night and that scare the Scar to stay inside their houses and cabins. And in this book we follow one rebellious leader that is a misting and that has these special powers, and all these powers derive from certain steel alloys, so that's really cool as well. And if you have all the misting powers, because each misting has one certain power, if you have all of them, you're a Mistborn, and you're sort of special because you have all these powers. And we follow one very rebellious Scar Mistborn who is trying to challenge nobility and who wants to do a revolution. And we're also following one street urchin who also, this is a bit of a spoiler, turns out to be a Mistborn in the end, and he trains her and they start a revolution. And that's basically what this first book is about. I've also read the second book of this trilogy and I just love it. There's balls, there's spying, there's gowns, there's rebellions, there's people with amazing powers, there's so much banter, humour, witty moments, and yeah, I just really loved this book this year. I was a bit distraught because this book feels like it's all about accepting different people, and in the end we're all human. We need to be more accepting, open, more listen to each other, challenge our beliefs more. But at the same time, then I heard that Brandon Sanderson had said some homophobic things, so I was like, wow, yet another writer who does this thing, where they write a book and then their own opinions turn out to be shit, really. But it turns out that he's really challenging those beliefs, or I've done some research and I've read some things, so that sort of calmed me down a bit, but I still want to tell you, just so you know. But it seems to be that he's really trying to challenge his own beliefs, so that's a good thing. But yeah, this was, I think, the best book that I read so far this year. The next question on this list is the best sequel that you've read so far this year, and for that I'm going to go with Heartstopper Part 3 by Alice Oseman. You all know this, but I love Heartstopper. This is Part 3 in the Heartstopper series, and yeah, there's basically not any other book that I could hold up here, because I did read quite a lot of sequels, but a lot of them were a bit disappointing. More on that later. But this is one of the ones that I really enjoyed, so yay! Go Alice Oseman, go Heartstopper. Heartstopper is the story of Nick and Charlie who fall in love, and Nick already knows he's gay, but Charlie has got no clue. No, it's the other way around. It's the other way around. It's definitely the other way around. It's been a while since I read this. So one of the boys is out and proud, and the other one is still figuring everything out, and it's a lot about discovering his bisexuality as well. But what I also love about this part, especially this sequel of Heartstopper, it gets a bit more serious. We dive a bit more into everything, and it's a bit more about the people around you, dealing with homophobia, dealing with discovering yourself in a world that feels like you need to declare your sexuality to the outer world. You need to come out, and This book really challenges all that, and it's just, yeah, I thought it was wonderfully done, especially for a graphic novel. This is a graphic novel series, for those of you who didn't know. I think this is definitely my favourite sequel that I've read this year so far. The third question on this list is a new release that you want to read, and for that I have to go with A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. I've seen this book all over Twitter, and my good friend Sabine also recently bought this book, and I was just like, okay, the cover is gorgeous. I love illustrated covers. I just keep on talking about illustrated covers on this channel, but it's just something that I really love. And then I discovered that this book is about mermaids. A book about mermaids. Oh my god, it's been such a long time since I've read a book about mermaids that I sincerely loved super much. Like, I remember reading this book about mermaids that was also a YA book, but it was so bad and it annoyed the living hell out of me. And yeah, everybody seems to love this book about mermaids. Okay, I need to get it. I've ordered it yesterday, I think, so I'm really waiting for it to come in. So it says here that it's about Tavia, who must hide her siren powers in a society determined to keep her under lock and key. It's a captivating modern fantasy about black mermaids, friendship, and self-discovery set against the challenges of today's racism and sexism. This sounds absolutely amazing, okay? So I'm really excited for this book, and I hope I'm going to love it a lot. Okay, next one. The most anticipated release for second half of the year. So I had to look through my Goodreads a bit for this one because I wasn't sure really. There's a couple. I am really looking forward to A School for Scholamences by Naomi Novik. I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure what it's about, but it's like a deadly school, deadly education kind of thing. I just love things with magical schools, basically. So that one is coming out in September, I think. But then the one that I want to talk about is The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And this is coming out in October, I believe. And first off, I love the cover. I think the cover is gorgeous. I love the font and like the black and everything. I've also seen the other cover with the blue and the green, but I don't like that one as much. This book is about Eddie LaRue, who has been sort of, people forget her, so there's this thing about her and people always forget her, nobody remembers her, and so she goes through her life without anybody remembering her, which is a very lonely life. And then one day she meets a man at the bookshop and he does remember her, or he recognizes her or something like that. And then I think that's where the story hits off, or that's everything I know. Like, maybe I'm not the best booktuber ever because I never really know a lot about synopses about books, but I try. So this is definitely a release for the second half of the year that I'm really looking forward to. I'm mostly also looking forward to just everything coming out in October and like Halloween and Spooky Month, because that's just, I love that. Now we're getting into the juicy part. That's question 5. What was the biggest disappointment that you read this year so far? And for me, that was definitely My Plain Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brodie Ashton and Jodie Meadows. As a lot of you guys know, I loved My Lady Jane. Basically, this series is 3 ladies rewriting histories with people called Jane in it, basically. So this is a rewriting of Jane Eyre. It had so many elements that made me sure that I would have to love it, because this is about a boarding school. It's about a girl that writes, that wants to challenge sexist ideas. It's got a lot of witty humour, like My Lady Jane had as well, and that's what I loved about My Lady Jane. I thought that book was hilarious. It was like super silly, but it was hilarious. It was a book that didn't take itself too seriously. And this book has ghosts in it. It has a girl that can speak to ghosts. It has a secret society that is hunting ghosts. I was just like, what's not to love? But then I started reading it and it was just so... it felt so super shallow to me. And the other book was shallow as well, but it was sort of like, I felt like that was sort of the point and it didn't matter. It was just like for a laugh and it was fun and, you know, fun to read, fun to be like absorbed in that world where everything is just sort of silly but also very magical. And in this one it was just at a surface level, so I really didn't enjoy it. And yeah, I was really disappointed because it had so much potential. So I'm really sad about that. And I'm not sure, because I think there's also another book in this series. It's called My Calamity Jane, but I'm not sure if I want to read that. So I don't know. But yeah, this was my biggest disappointment so far. The next question is, what is your biggest surprise this year? And I'd have to say that was probably Treasure, written by Rebecca Weatherspoon. I came across this book because of Mina Reads. She was talking about it on her channel, and I was really looking for some female books to pick up quickly, and this one was available as an ebook, so I bought it. And I thought I hated romance, but it turns out I do love female romance. So I was like totally into this book, and then I read it in like 2 days or 3 days because I was just so loving it. So thank you, Mina, and yay me for trying new things, because it turns out I do like romance, so I'm super happy. About this book, this is about two girls. One of them is a stripper and the other one is a girl that is a bit like struggling with herself, with her mental health, and at the same time she's really awesome. She's like very smart. They both go to a technical college, I think, or they're doing something technical. And so our main character, Alexis, she goes out with her sister's bachelor party, and at that bachelor party they go to a strip club, and this is where she meets Treasure, or Trisha, who's a stripper at that strip club. And yeah, they really like each other from moment one, but it's like they have to figure things out, and then later they sort of get together. And yeah, it's a really good story about love, about mental health as well, about talking and being open and honest to each other, communication, and it's just so good, and it's so gush worthy, and the sex scenes are really good. I loved this book, and it was a total surprise, and now I can say I do like romance. Yay! By the way, after I read this, I ordered so much female books, so yeah. A lot of fantasy as well, but just a lot more sapphic reads for me, so yeah. The next one is, what is your favourite new author that you've read this year? And I've got to go with Leah Johnson. I'm currently listening to You Should See Me in a Crown, written by Leah Johnson. The audiobook is really good. I don't know who's narrating it, but that person has the loveliest voice, and it reminds me a lot of my friend Tasmin. Don't know why, because I think the narrator is not actually British, but their voice is just so... I love their voice. It's a great voice to listen to. This book is basically all about prom and trying to become prom queen, but is also queer, and it's also got a female romance in it. I was actually planning on filming a haul after this as well, but I think I'm too warm to do that. So in You Should See Me in a Crown, we follow Lizzie, who has lost her mother due to sickle disease or sickle cell disease, or it's a blood disease having to do with your blood cells. She really wants to go to this college, but she can't afford to, and so she's been always on top of her school game because she has to have really good grades to get accepted for a scholarship. But then she hears that she is not accepted for said scholarship, and so her world sort of collapses around her. But then her and her amazing friends come up with a plan to become prom queen, because when she becomes prom queen, she could get a lot of money from the prize, and with that money she could go to college. That's basically what this book is about. But then her rival, that is also trying to be prom queen, is a queer girl, and they kind of really like each other. So that's where the story gets a little bit more interesting. And this book was just, I've almost finished it right now, and it's so good. I love it. It's really fun, it's heartwarming, it's light, but it's also serious at times. It delves into caring for people you love that are ill, but also some racial things, and it's really, really good. And I just love the way Leah Johnson writes. She can bring across serious subjects through fiction so well. The way she brings out important themes in her story, but also uses humour and just fun moments to keep it light and enjoyable at the same time. I don't think that should be necessary in every story that's a bit more tough or difficult, but I do think it's a wonderful talent to have. And so I would recommend this book to anybody who's in high school, who's trying to grapple with their sexuality, with trying to fit in, but also everybody else, because it's just a really fun book. The next question is, who is your latest fictional crush? And for me, I'd have to go with Esther from Giant Days. Giant Days is one of my favourite graphic novel series. It's about these three girls that are roommates in college or university, and it's basically all about their life on campus and everything they go through, their tests, and discovering yourself, your sexuality, friendships, being an adult for the first time. And Esther is this sort of gothic, edgy girl that is in there, and she's really cute. I just love the way she's sort of not really down to earth, but I like that about her, and she's very sarcastic, and yeah, I'd definitely say she's my latest fictional crush. And then the next question number 9, is your newest favourite character, and then I'd have to go with Kemaya from Fierce Femmes and Notorious Liars, written by Kai Cheng Tom. This is a book that I read at the beginning of the year when I did that thing where I tried to read a book every day in February, which was kind of mental. I read this book, which is an own voices novel by Kai Cheng Tom, and first of all, Kai Cheng Tom, she's an amazing writer. She just really has a way with words. She's super poetic. There were so many beautiful lines in her book. I think even people who've read the book and who didn't like it are still saying that the prose is just beyond this world, really. And this is also an own voices novel about an Asian trans girl, and I don't know why I don't hear more people speak about this book, because it is so good and I enjoyed it so much. It's basically about this girl who comes from an abusive household, and this is it's a memoir, but it's a fantasy memoir as well, because it has some magical elements woven into the story, and it's sort of fictionalized. And so she grows up in an abusive home, and from there on she goes to join this badass girl gang group of trans girls, and they sort of challenge the homophobia and transphobia happening on the streets, and it's just so good. And Kamaya is one of the characters that runs a clinic where she helps trans girls that don't have a lot of resources, and she's just so inspirational and such a motherly figure, and a really nice sign of the community that they have in this book, and like the feeling of that community. And yeah, I really appreciate her as a character, and I think this book is also so important and really one you should check out. Okay, the next question is a book that made you cry. To be honest, I am a very emotional person, but I haven't read anything this year that really made me cry. But what I did read was a book that was so bad it almost made me cry because I didn't want to finish it. So I'm just going to go briefly over that book. That is The Final Girls by Riley Sager. I would have given this 0 stars if it was possible. I was sort of almost crying with exasperation, basically. I was so exhausted from reading this. I was just like, ugh. Let somebody end it, please. I don't want to read it, but I did finish it. I'm so proud of myself. Don't know why, because it was really bad. It's basically about 3 girls who all were in different killing sprees, and they all were the only survivors of each killing spree, and it's by different murderers. And then basically these girls start to disappear and get murdered themselves, and they're the final girls. And it's about dealing with the media attention after a tragedy like this, but it's also like another mystery wrapped into it. I just thought it was predictable at the wrong moments and illogical at other moments, and the writing was very fast-paced, but in a way that made you feel like the writer had no control over where it was going, and I really didn't enjoy it. But you know, almost made me cry because it was so bad. Sorry, Riley. I have heard people say that they liked other books by Riley Sager, but I think she's maybe just not for me. Then we have to talk about a book that made you happy, and for me that's going to be For Everyone by Jason Reynolds, and also Art Matters by Neil Gaiman. So I'm just going to sort of group those together because they're both very short, inspirational books about following your dreams and your heart and doing what you love. Especially Jason Reynolds' book really dives into following your dreams and having faith in yourself. And Neil Gaiman's book is really about art and why art is so important, and why it's so important to teach our children to be creative and to have imagination and to not lock themselves off in a box. So yeah, both of these books are non-fiction books. I rarely ever read non-fiction, but they're both so inspirational and really good for your Goodreads challenge because they're really short. So yeah, I would recommend both of these books to anybody really. They'll just make you feel so good. They'll make you feel empowered and like you can trust yourself. You know what you're doing. You know, that thing that you're dreaming of, do it. So yeah, really good books, both of them. Okay, the next question. I just dropped everything on the floor. Love that for me. Okay, the next question is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received this year, and that is definitely Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is an edition that I bought for myself because I thought it was so pretty, and it is the most gorgeous book that I own, I think. But unfortunately, I couldn't really get into Little Women. Like, I've tried reading it 3 separate times now, and I just can't get through it. So maybe that's just not for me. I think I'm really bad at classics. I've tried to read classics before, and the only person I like so far is Sylvia Plath. And I don't even know if that counts as classics, but this one was definitely not for me. It was so, just kept dragging on. But it's a really pretty book, and it's definitely the most pretty book I own, so yeah. And so we've already reached the last question of this tag. I'm really glad because I'm sort of melting over here. And that question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And for me, that's definitely The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I think this book was in a lot of people's list for this question, but for me too, because I really, really want to read Priory so bad. The Bone Season series is one of my favourite fantasy series of all times. I love the way Samantha Shannon creates fantasy worlds and just weaves everything in there. It's so beautifully done. And yeah, she's really one of my favourite fantasy writers. And then I found out this has dragons and also female romance. I was just totally sold. And to be honest, I love thick books. I love when you have so much time to dive into it so deeply. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to picking this one up. Okay guys, I'm going to wrap this up right now because I am melting and I'm super tired and I just want to cool off and put that air conditioning back on. But I really hope you all enjoyed my mid-year book freakout tag, and to see you again on my channel. And yeah, definitely let me know what was your favourite book of this year so far and what books are really on your TBR. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!